Our guest today is Madelyne. Madelyne is a business coach and an artist therapist, such a great combination of careers. She helps artists to turn their hobby into a successful and profitable venture, and she uses her creativity to connect the dots and help them to create their business. So Madelyne, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Zsofia of Myprocesses, and I help busy entrepreneurs to automate and outsource their time-consuming tasks without sacrificing their profit. So if you are looking to make the 4-hour work week a reality or just avoid burnout, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you will be notified when I release a new video like this. Madelyne, where did this business idea come from for you?
It mostly came from being an artist myself and learning how I was going to transform my hobby of art into a business. I started first being a jewelry designer and transforming my jewelry making into a Etsy shop, a profitable Etsy shop. And
is this your own jewelry made by you?
This is not the stuff that I make. This is actually, these are made by the Maasai people in Kenya. So I like
really catching the eye.
Yeah. I like to support a lot of artists too, like in other countries and stuff like that. But anyway, so I started that, and then I've always had my painting and my artwork, and then slowly I started selling that and making a career out of that. And then I recently got certified in art therapy coaching, and then just started kind of like noticing that a lot of artists are struggling marketing their art, treating their hobby as a business to make it profitable and be successful. And then at the same time, there's this more like inner struggle that a lot of artists have, which is the struggle to heal as an artist, to accept themselves and really boost their creativity and not get so stuck. So there was like that aspect which art therapy can be really helpful for in coaching in that dynamic. And so I fused the two together.
I'm really amateur in art, so I would never dare to show what I create to anyone, to be honest. But when I create something, I try to listen to myself and rather, just go through the process of creation and not really thinking about how can I sell it in the long run. Does these two things can be connected? So can it be reconciled in the process, do you think?
Yeah, so I encourage most people to start off that way, is creating for yourself, making sure that you're happy, right? It's a very therapeutic process to create anything. And so we should always go in the mindset of for ourselves instead of others. And then later, as you kind of start to develop your style and hone in your niche and know like kind of your thing that you're really good at, then you can start to think about how you can monetize it and how you can scale it and sell it to the market. One caveat is I know a lot of artists feel they have to sell out or they have to like completely like cater to what other people want. And I would encourage them to readdress that and to come back to creating for yourself, because you can always find a market of people who are going to like your stuff. I'm of that belief, instead of changing your art. But that doesn't mean you can't add a variety of stuff to your overall portfolio that is more widely accepted just to help you get those sales, but then you can still continue to do the stuff that like you're really excited and passionate about.
And how did you create your piece of art, which is basically your service, what you provide to your clients, in a way that it's sellable? How was the transformation?
It wasn't always so easy. I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs to entrepreneurship. It's kind of a spiritual journey, just as much as accepting that you're an artist and stuff, because just so many things like come up for us, right, that we question, and self-doubt comes in. And so really it's just learning to kind of shut out that inner critic in the noise and focus on your passion and your mission. And I would say, like, once you get really aligned with your purpose, the motivation and the energy just kind of comes with it naturally. And for me, it was just like, as an artist, I always knew I wanted to make an impact. I just wasn't sure completely how. And market research was one of the best things that I did to kind of figure out that how piece. So if you're unsure and you're starting out and you've got all these products or services in mind, I encourage you to ask your potential audience, survey them, ask questions, do that market research, so that you can get validated in your answers and the data that you're collecting and knowing your target customer.
That really makes sense. And I really hear the vibes what you can give to your clients when you are helping them to create these ventures as well. What did your family think about you starting a business? Was it always like that? So you always was meant to be an entrepreneur?
My parents knew early on I was an artist, and they really tried hard to be like, don't go to art school. Like, well, you need to get a well-rounded education. And so I got my undergrad, went to a university and got my undergrad in art history. So as much as they tried, I still ended up like being in the arts. And then I graduated, and it was in the middle of like the recession, and so a lot of people were struggling, and I actually started my first business was a tutoring business. So I was tutoring kids who were getting ready for college, trying to pass the SATs in the United States, which is the standardized testing, and I was a really good SAT tutor and helping kids apply to colleges. So that was a really successful business for about 2 years. And then I said, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. As much as I love kids, I don't see this being forever. And I decided I wanted to go back to grad school. And I took a more practical route. I always knew I was like very entrepreneurial minded, selling my jewelry and having this tutoring business early on. So I was like, oh, I'll go to business school. I'll actually kind of get my nuts and bolts in order and learn things like finance and accounting and all of that. And the marketing was kind of like the plus. So I was like, that's the fun part. I know I'll do well in that. So I got my MBA from San Francisco State University. I actually started a startup while I was there, a technology startup. It was a app for your phone where you can match with different mentors. And so I did the whole like pitching.
That's really far from being an artist, creating a startup
It
for an
is.
app.
It is. It's so like all on the other side. And I worked in the tech industry. So while I was going and getting my MBA, I was working full time. And I was inching my way up in the marketing industry, starting as an intern and then associate, climbing the corporate ladder. And while I was doing that, I had my little startup baby, and I was pitching to investors and trying to get like seed money and all that. And then my co-founder for that moved across the country. And so eventually with that, we kind of disassembled this idea. And I realized too, I was not interested in being startup founder. It was just not the life for me. And my corporate career was really taking off. So I became like a manager and really rose through the ranks. And then as eventually, after I got to a certain place in my corporate career, I actually moved from California, the Bay Area, kind of like the tech hub of the Silicon Valley and stuff like that, to Texas, to Austin, Texas. And for those of you who don't know, the reason why I moved to Austin, Texas is because it's a very artistic community. Lots of artists, lots of hippies, and I fell in love with that. And it was kind of like falling back in love with my roots and my artist roots of who I am and being an artist and being creative. And that's where I met a lot of other entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurial community is huge here. And I met so many coaches and entrepreneurs, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm going to start my own business again, but this time it's going to be in something I'm really passionate about. And hence the idea of art coaching and art therapy.
That was a long journey. I mean, a really, really long. journey to go from a teacher to become an entrepreneur in your passion. Okay, amazing. I'm so glad you arrived here. There were initial difficulties when you started this business, I am sure, because we all have when we start out. Could you please mention maybe one, and how did you overcome it?
Sometimes a lot of it is just like soul searching, and figuring out like really what you're passionate about. And for me, it was trial and error. Sometimes you just throw stuff at the wall, see if it sticks, and you play around with it. Like, I truly believe, like, at any point in time during, and even throughout our life, we get so many ideas and we pursue them a little bit and we kind of see where they go. And then some hit dead walls, and that's okay. I would say if you're hitting a dead wall, like, that's just a sign that maybe that's the farthest it's gonna go. Like, you shouldn't have to force success. Success does not come with force. It comes with flow. It comes with ease. So if you're hitting that dead wall, make a U-turn, pivot, make a left turn, make a right turn until you hit the next wall, and then continue just moving, because really it's not just like a straight line up this way. We've seen the graphs where it's like, woo, swiggly, it's all over the place. Maybe you go back here and then that way. And that's just how the journey is as you continue to refine and repolish and go back to the drawing board several times. I've had to rebrand several times. I had first Nemo marketing business and then the art business. And so sometimes we start somewhere and then we go and then we come back and then we go again and we come back. And that's just part of the journey. So have some compassion and grace with yourself and patience, knowing that nothing is immediate. Success is not immediate. And it definitely doesn't happen overnight. And it's a buildup of like one foundation layer after another. And sometimes those layers, they're made out of different material, meaning you had to go get brick instead of cement because your idea is changing and your future look of your house is changing, right? Whatever you drafted in the architectural design may be completely different than what you actually end up building. So
you just painted a picture of the entrepreneurial journey with all these lights. I love it. I really do. It's very, very nice. How do you stay effective among all these things going on, all these ideas and great projects?
I would say I take a lot of time for myself. I think self-care is really, really, really important. I know in the US, we're kind of such a hustle culture and we're such a work hard culture. And I lived in Europe. I lived in Spain for like almost half a year. And it was very different. It was more like, enjoy life, and like some work. And so having experienced that and preferring that lifestyle and being in the US, I think I've kind of been more anti-hustle and anti-work hard. I think the main goal of why we all get into business, essentially, is so that we don't have to work 16-hour days or 20-hour days. I literally had this conversation with another entrepreneurial friend of mine, and we both agreed we love the days where we work 3 hours, but we made enough money where it felt like 8 or 10 hours, right? And that's like the place you want to strive to be. And so doing that, the best thing you can do is not exhaust yourself, not burn the candle at both ends, not overwhelm yourself and reach burnout. And part of doing that is taking that time for self-care and prioritizing, like taking care of your body. Maybe it's a mental health break. Maybe it's getting more sleep. Maybe it's socializing. And I know in this crazy pandemic, we're all a little more like needing of socialization. So if that cup feels empty, book a whole bunch of Zoom calls to catch up with friends over the internet so that you feel fulfilled. Because when your soul is full, that's when you can create magic.
And that's when you can find success with ease without really
Yes.
pressuring the whole.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you outsource anything just to avoid this overwhelm?
Yeah, so I outsource some of my social media, and I outsource some of my like I have a virtual assistant that does a lot of like my bookings and more of my admin tasks. And then I'm looking to outsource some of my email and automation. I've always been one for efficiency, and I'm definitely always building my business in mind of scaling. Therefore, I'm always trying to automate early on so that I don't have to do it later, because I know the hassle. In my professional corporate career, I was a specialist in automation. And so I know the hassle of like scaling so big and having to go back to automating things. It's a lot more difficult when you have a giant customer base of 150 million email addresses than starting off with like 1,000. You just want to get all those like nuts and bolts working early on. And that's something that I usually recommend to my customers and clients as well, because it puts you in a different mindset. Once you start automating things, not only do you free up your space and your time to create, but you start thinking more differently of like this automated journey versus this manual journey. And that can really have a positive impact when you're thinking more long-term of this always running in the background, right? Like what content can I always have running in the background that's being served up to my client base? So
I can just agree with you about this mindset of starting with automation and outsourcing when it is still in the small case, and not let it hit you hard when it blows up with the business and with a lot of clients, new clients.
yeah.
If you
Definitely.
could give only one tip to someone who is just starting an entrepreneurial journey, maybe an artist, maybe something completely else, listening to us, what would be your number one tip?
Find your favorite productivity tool and get organized with your business. For
Which is
me,
your favorite?
mine is Trello.
Trello, okay.
Yeah, I love Trello because it's a great way to transition from the pencil writing of the to-do lists and your planners. Even though I love that stuff, I'm definitely like still a hardcore like love writing things down. But if you're going to be moving into doing so much digital with your business anyways, it's just great to migrate that whole process of planning and making the to-do list and organizing early on. And the great thing about Trello is there's so many other entrepreneurs out there who have made literally business 101, like starting out Trello templates for you to get organized that you can buy for like $30. I did that with Boss Project Academy, and it really helped me just get my whole business organized in Trello. And once I did that, it was like my mind was organized and everything else was organized, and it kept me more accountable and more consistent.
Amazing. And Trello is really, really classic, and the very, very upside of it that so many people are using it. And because that's my field, I tend to try other tools, but I always got back to Trello as a basis. Now I have another one which is like more about mind mapping and Gantt charts, but still, Trello is great. I fully agree with you. Is there
Yeah.
any exciting project you are working on right now?
There is. I am in Amy Porterfield's digital academy for creating courses, her digital course academy, DCA, and I am in the process of building an art therapy course for artists. It's called Moving from Creative Suppression to Creative Expression. It's an art therapy guide for artists who are looking to basically discover their full potential. And that is going to be launching October 1st.
Amazing. So we are really looking for this course. If you already have a link, we will put under this video. So guys, make sure to check it out. Maybe while you are listening to this YouTube video, you already can purchase this course and you can use it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for joining us today.
thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for listening. Don't forget, stop firefighting and be the creator of your company.